Hi everyone, welcome to the second webinar for December. With me, I have Itena, who is a fellow from Albania from class 23. Today she'll be presenting on positive youth development. I do not want to talk more about her because she actually wanted to take some time talking about her experience, her previous job experience before she came on the fellowship program. What is she currently doing? And what will she be presenting on? So over to you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Hello, everyone. Sarah said I'm Itena, an Atlas Corps Fellow, class 23. I'm from Albania. And right now I'm serving at Making Sense International in Washington, D.C. The part or the way how I'm serving is under the Youth Power team and under the Knowledge Management and Communications Fellow. Before starting talking about the positive youth development and our experience here, I'm going to talk a little bit on what's my relationship with youth work and youth development before. I have been working with Children Are the Future in Albania since 2008, and that is an organization that works for the better opportunities and better life for young people by involving the work with all the stakeholders that surround youth, of course, by having in focus children and youth, including teachers, parents, educational institutions, and all other stakeholders that work on that. And I've also had another experience with teaching at universities, social sciences and faculty of public health and then of social sciences in Tirana. But now let's come back to the Atlas Corps Fellowship and to my service at Making Sense International. So today, as I said, I'm going to talk about positive youth development and the Youth Power Learning Project that is a very big intervention financed by USAID. Let's go in more details to the slides that we have prepared. So Youth Power Learning, working to advance positive youth development is the title of the big project. It's a 5-year project sponsored by USAID. And here I have mentioned some of the main members of who have contributed to this program so far. Let's go to the main objectives of our day-to-day. We will focus on what is positive youth development, what have we learned about the evidence from positive youth development programs in low and middle income countries, why is it important to use, to measure positive youth development outcomes, and how do we do this, and the learning network, that is a very important element where you can all be active and benefit from this program. So what is positive youth development? What is youth power learning first? In order to better understand it, let's see the two big components that are the implementation and the evidence and evaluation parts. The implementation, as you understand by its name, keeps focus in the areas of implementation that in this case are Burundi, Mozambique, Kenya, El Salvador, Eastern Caribbean, Nicaragua, Honduras, and it includes all the partners that are in the implementation phase. And then we have the assessment and evidence domain that is focused basically on assessments, research, and continuous systematic review of these kind of interventions that we implement. And as you see, the areas are interactive and they influence one another. It's in order to have some evidence, we need to follow and assess the implemented projects. But at the same time, this implementation is helped by the evidence that is provided, the outcomes, and the research that is that provides the evidence for the lessons learned and how the intervention can be improved in the future. And this is the way how it is working so far. Okay, let's continue with another part. So what is exactly youth power learning? Its main focus is to generate knowledge and to disseminate it through research, assessments, evaluations, learning events, and other capacity building efforts. And it's very important that it shows this kind of knowledge for the implementation of and the impact of positive youth development through sectorial approaches and international development. The main core activities of the big project and intervention are establishment of youthpower.org, that is an existing website page under Youth Power Program, and this is the website that I've been working. I know it very well. It is rich with resources, events, and so many toolkits and handouts that help in youth development. There are 4 communities of practices created through this project, and we're going to talk about each of them. And if you're interested, you can join the 4 of them or one of them, depending on your interest on the topic. Then we have like another activity was to develop positive youth development indicators and related tools. And then another part is to produce a global meta-review of positive youth development literature by supporting so as the final activity a greater learning and collaboration. So it's important, as I said, it's a 5-year project and there are several elements of it. But let's focus basically on the concept of positive youth development. According to USAID's definition, positive youth development engages youth along with their families, communities, and our governments so that youth can be empowered to reach their full potential. And positive youth development approaches build skills, assets, and competences by fostering healthy relationships, by strengthening the environment, and transforming systems. So why have we bolded these main terms or concepts? It's because these are key terms in positive youth development and are going to be explained, each of them, in the further steps. So what do we know about positive youth development? We know that it is both. It is a philosophy and an approach. And both of these ways help in programming for youth. It's a way of understanding young people that helps to guide the design of policy, the development of programs and supports and other opportunities by focusing mainly on assets, strengths, youth engagement, and all youth, no matter where exactly. Every sector plays an important role, so it's very important to have a cross-sectorial approach. It's a long-term commitment. Of course, it takes time to reach into a positive youth development once you want to see the results. And it's holistic, as I said, based on developmental stages and needs. Some positive youth development achieves multiple sector outcomes, and these are elements that have been shown through evidence and research so far. So some areas where it has these outcomes is in violence and crime reduction, delay of sexual activities, increased academic soft skills, increased community engagement, substance abuse prevention, improved relationships. What have we learned so far by the implementation in low and middle income countries? For this, there is a document, it's a very comprehensive document called Systematic Review of Positive Youth Development Programs in Low and Middle Income Countries, and it is based mainly on 2 research questions that have to do with the impact of implementation of positive youth development approach in these countries and what the evidence says about its effectiveness. And as we mentioned some countries before, here there is the division of the colors. In this case, understands that The blue color stands for areas where there have been or are being taken more than 5 positive youth development interventions, whereas the green ones are the ones with 1 positive youth development intervention. According to this process of implementation, evidence, as I'm repeating and strengthening and emphasizing right now, is that it leads to positive youth development programs in improving socio-emotional communication life skills, increasing positive parenting by increasing their confidence in use of non-violent disciplines, by lowering the using psychological and verbal intimate partner violence. It improves the general psychological well-being and self-esteem of young people. It reduces some conduct problems. It reduces substance use. It improves use of health efficacy and use of condoms, decreases sexual risks by several partners or unprotected sex. It reduces teenage pregnancy, increase number of youth with high quality and longer lasting employment, and at the same time it reduces dropout, especially for girls, dropout rates from education. It improves gender equitable attitudes among youth by promoting gender equality. And so these are shortly or briefly some of the main aspects on how the positive development affects. And in more details in HIV, AIDS, and sexual reproductive health, by these outcomes, there is a higher self-efficacy of to use condoms with their partners, reduce sexual risk behaviors, adolescent girls report fewer incidents in unwilling sex, reduction of HIV-related stigma, more SRH services, as I mentioned, sexual reproductive health, and reduced teenager pregnancy. In other fields, like in democracy and human rights and governance, there is outcomes included political empowerment of youth, increased agency and self-efficacy, and social skills, decreased child marriage, and improved community gender norms. And the approach used or included in this case emphasize youth contribution and utilize media programs, meetings, and social events. So these elements show that we have to care about this concept or this approach, because there is a strong evidence in high-income countries that positive youth development strategies work, and also in low and middle-income countries there is still a sparse evidence, but it is growing since the implementation is in the process. How to measure PYD is an important interest of many implementers, but also interested people in this program, and young people especially. There are 5 components, but for this is still something that has happened and is happening. But one again comprehensive document on the measurement of positive youth development is the measurement toolkit that we can find at youthpower.org again. And some of the main phases through the program design and evaluation for positive youth development go through the desired outcomes or research questions, selecting positive youth development features, main features, and beneficiaries of the program, finalizing the logical model, and we're going to explain what it means a bit later, and deciding what to measure and how. And at the very end, analyzing the data and disseminating the findings and adapting youth program. So let's go to the main logical framework of positive youth development. As we see in this graph, it is there are 4 main dimensions of positive youth development: assets, agency, contribution, and enabling environment. And once the 4 of these dimensions are fulfilled or they work properly or they are enabled, then we can say that we have healthy, productive, and engaged youth, or we can say that we have positive youth development. Let's go and try to explain each of them separately. Assets have to do with the fact when youth have the necessary resources, skills, and competencies to achieve desired outcomes. Only in this case, we can say that we have assets. Agency, youth perceive and have the ability to employ their assets and aspirations and to make or influence their own decisions about their lives and that of their communities, and to set their own goals by having an influence in decision making and in the desired outcomes. Agency, sometimes it is overlapped with the assets, because as we know, every sector interferes to the others and is influenced as well. And in this case, in more details, we have is the ability to employ. That refers to having intentionality, forethought, positive self-identity, a positive belief in the future, and goal orientation. And the last domain, well, it's not the last because we have one, it's the third, is contribution. So we say that we have contribution once youth are engaged as a source of change for their own and for that of their communities. Positive youth development. Enabling environment is the fourth main important element of positive youth development, and how we understand it is that youth are surrounded by an environment that develops and supports their assets, agency, access to services and opportunities, and strengthens their ability to avoid risks and to stay safe, secure, and protected in their life. In a better explanation of enabling environment, we can understand it in several stages or elements by mentioning the social framework that is made of relationships with peers and adults, the normative framework that includes attitudes, norms, and beliefs, the structural framework that also includes laws, policies, program services and systems that is a bit wider, and the physical element that includes the safe spaces, living in an area where you're not violenced and you have supportive spaces. We talked about domains, but domains at the same time are understood with their features. So in blue here we have mentioned domains, as I mentioned. So we have assets, agency, contribution, enabling environment. And as I said, that the two first domains overlap. They are understood by skill building, or their main aim is the skill building of youth. And then we have youth engagement and contribution under contribution. And enabling environment is understood by healthy relationships and bonding, belonging and membership, positive norms and expectations, safe space, access to age-appropriate and youth-friendly services by integration among services. And when we are explaining these elements of positive youth development, this also helps in its measurement, and we are going to explain how do we measure positive youth development. But let's reframe again the definition of positive youth development according to USAID. So it engages youth together with their families, communities, governments, and the big society around them, so that they are empowered to reach their full potential. Positive youth development approaches build skills, assets, and competencies, and foster healthy relationships, so they strengthen environment and transform systems. So as I mentioned, it's a very wide and comprehensive outcome, or what we expect, or what we have to assess during the measurement. And for that, we use several elements and domains and features we already mentioned. But in order to measure this, we have construct that is a bit wider than indicators, and then the tools. Construct are, in this case, we can understand the positive youth development outcomes that we want to measure, but we cannot easily measure through only one indicator. They need several indicators to understand them. Like in this case, an example for that is self-control. That's a wider concept of a certain outcome. And then indicators are specific, observable, and measurable characteristics used to show the changes or progress into a program or a specific outcome. And in this case, we have increased self-control skills in conclusion of training or programming. So in a specific aspect. And then tools that are a scale or index for measuring indicators. In this case, there can be surveys and other elements similar to that. And one example given here is the International Youth Development Survey. In order to illustrate some of the positive youth development indicators, they are created in a way that they are designed to be used across multiple sectors. They track changes, as we said, into positive youth development outcomes, and they can be used at multiple entry points, from selecting the program features to its very end, so the program outcomes. So they can be used in different areas, in different parts of the intervention. And here is mentioned an example of program activities and how then we have positive youth development constructs, in this case self-efficacy, higher order of thinking, communication skills, and so on. And then the program outcome like condom use, increased income. Some tools for measuring indicators are like using them is relatively low in cost. It's easy to use and gives a good psychometric properties, and either had already been used in the international context or had potentially been used in developing countries. So if you want to learn more about the measuring tools of indicators, please visit youthpower.org Positive Youth Development Toolkit, and then you can learn more about that. So the aim here is just to introduce some of these main elements or aspects that you can use. Let's step to the second, not second, but to the last phase of this presentation, that is learning network. It's very important to be active and interactive into this community because it's basically focused on youth, and since we are working with youth and we're interested in youth and we are youth, most of us, we have to benefit from this resource. So youthpower.org is one of the activities, as we mentioned, of Youth Power, and it provides many resources, events, and other inputs for youth development. Here the motto is changing the world by unlocking the power of young people. So be active and be these young people and use your power to be active and changing your communities as well. Some elements how we can be involved in youth power are the communities of practices, or COPs. There are 4 communities of practices, and there is the cross-sectoral skills for youth, there is youth engagement, there is gender and positive youth development, youth in peace and security. If you want to learn more about each of them, please visit youthpower.org, then go to communities and see each of them. If you're interested in joining them, you have a link there that says join, and you can join each of them or the 4 of them if you're interested. And after joining the communities of practices, you can benefit, or you can have access to resources, events, and everything that circulates in these networks. So these are international networks of people interested in these fields and professionals in this field. And at the same time, you can share knowledge of resources, research documents, events, or blogs that you have written or you're interested to share with others. Some of the documents and briefs that are produced by communities of practices are visualized here, and there are several of them. And starting from the most recent one of the Youth Engagement Community of Practice, it helps how to make a pitch for youth engagement. There are other documents that help on measuring positive youth development by explaining better indicators. They also help on how to involve youth in research. I'm sorry, and it's because we said that it's very important to have youth in the center of the implementation and also of the policy making. So to summarize, all the ways how we can engage with youth power is by using positive youth development resources and apply insights on what works, by joining one of the communities of practices or all of them and sharing knowledge, by contributing resources, in this case sharing knowledge that I mentioned, by contributing to events through joining webinar or through being present in-person meetings, by writing blogs and sharing them to youthpower.org, by subscribing to the newsletter that is two-monthly newsletter that provides all the recent resources of Youth Power and all other partners. And by being part of Youth Lead platform, that is a new platform that is being developed through Youth Power and USAID. And this means that is young leaders and young people from everywhere in the world that are interested in youth work and in youth problems. They interact with each other by having their own platform, and they will be the main actors of developing this platform. That's why if you're interested in being part of the youth advisory group, you would like to share your needs, your ideas, your expertise in youth or in other aspects important for youth, please visit youthpower.org or write an email to info@youthpower.org by using the text Youth Advisory Group. And this is basically, these are the main ways how you can be involved. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope this has been helpful for you. And if you want to learn more, then you can visit the website that I mentioned, or you can write to me on both addresses of mine, itenajalari@atlascore.org or itena@makingsense.com. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great season holiday and enjoy your time. Thank you very much.